As you can tell, he's super passionate about what he does. And like I said, I've learned a lot from him over the years in terms of, I guess, how to make sense of your purpose, the things that you do, why you do them, how to create structure around them. And, a lot of things that I learned very early on still kind of hold true today. I just want to use this as a reminder that you can donate to the various initiatives that we're funding over at uc-2020.com. We're supporting charities providing COVID-19 relief efforts and supporting the Black Lives Matter movement. They include Inner City Arts, Black Lives Matter, Artist Relief, the Loveland Foundation, Doctors Without Borders, NBK Alliance, World Central Kitchen, House of Ruth, and Black Visions Collective. And you can also check for more content on IG. And if you have any questions, it's not too late. You can ask on our website, uc-2020.com, or on the Unexpected Connections Instagram.
So next up, we have Decatur Dan, known as, or I guess Decatur Dan, who goes by the real name Dan Hall. He brings his hometown spirit of community, culture, and finesse into everything he creates while constantly pushing to see what he's capable of next. He began his career in streetwear before becoming the choice music video director for Atlanta icons 2 Chainz, Future, Jeezy, and more. In 2010, Dan found where it's greater to further expand his visual storytelling into premium commercial campaigns for Nike, Beats by Dre, and Amazon Music. His agile approach behind the camera is a hybrid of technical expertise and street smarts, resulting in a clean, bold delivery that evokes his commitment to what's bigger, better, and greater. He'll be joined by Alex Maeland. He's a creative director, designer, photographer, and co-founder of MAEKAN, and he's based currently in Hong Kong and LA. He has a long-standing career crafting brand stories for the likes of Gatorade, Asics, Arc'teryx, Jordan Brand, 11 Madison Park, Adidas Originals, and more. And prior to co-founding MAEKAN with myself, he served as the creative director for Hypebeast, a street and lifestyle publication based in Hong Kong, as well as globally. Born in Seoul, South Korea, he was raised in Atlanta, Georgia. This is his bio, not mine. Alex is a Southern boy. Alex is a Southern boy in more ways than one. He earned his bachelor's degree in political science from Georgia State University and credits his undergraduate program with bolstering his artistic side for the structure and rigidity that is required to build great brands. So we're excited to have these two chop it up about growing up in Atlanta and building a creative career and how the local streetwear shop were both fundamental to their beginnings. Let's take it over to Alex and Dan. Right here.
All right. Hey, Dan, how you doing?
What's up, bro? I didn't know you had that poli-sci major at Georgia State. That's
Sorry,
fire.
technical difficulty. There we go. Hey, Dan, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you. How you doing, man?
I'm good. Just I didn't realize you had that poli-sci major at Georgia State.
Well, now you know. Now you know.
Now I know the real. You know what I'm saying? Like the real.
Now you know that I'm really not a creative. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I studied marketing, so it's all bullshit. I'm never.
Yeah, right.
So I gotta keep it clean.
Well, before we dive in, I'll just give a quick intro before I kind of kick it over to you, Dan. I'm super excited to talk today. I know you and I have been chopping it up on the side, and you have a lot to say just sort of through your story, and otherwise, just with current events going on. So just for everybody who just kind of tuned in, my name is Alex. Like Eugene said, I'm a co-founder of MAEKAN. And I just want to give a bit of context for Dan and I's relationship, because I think it's important to sort of frame up what we're going to talk about today. Dan and I have been friends for give or take about 8 or 9 years, I think, Dan. We both grew up in Georgia, so we're both Southern boys. I grew up in Gwinnett County, which is essentially the suburbs, if you know anything about the metro Atlanta area. Korean adopted by Norwegian American parents. And then on the flip side, Dan grew up in Decatur, which is more the city, obviously. And Dan was a few years older than me, but we also went to the same university, which is Georgia State. And so I think the easiest way to sum it up, Dan, I think you'd agree, is that streetwear almost brought us together, which kind of sounds corny, but you worked for a shop called Standard in Atlanta. And then I took a job a little while after you at a neighboring shop called Wish. And if there was ever sort of like a Coke or Pepsi rival in like the streetwear world in the South, I think it was Wish and Standard at the time. And there was no like Instagrams to stunt on or anything like that at the time. But we sure as hell were making a good point of trying to prove who was like more relevant and who was doing the cooler stuff in the city through our like blogspot.com accounts. So the rest of the major cities, you know, they had their undefeateds, their A-Life, their bodegas, all that stuff, but there was just 2 in Atlanta. So anyways, I look up to you, Dan, as a peer, but also as a mentor. And I think, you know, what I've learned in my creative journey is that we all sort of ride waves that have been created from the momentum of those that came before us, from their ingenuity and from their creativity. And, you know, Dan, I think you really created that wave for me early on that I was able to sort of ride in the city and then beyond after that. So looking back, you know, we've both carved out sort of successful, quote unquote, creative careers emerging from unexpected places. And those opportunities in streetwear and for you, music, obviously, that, you know, they were there predominantly for people who were willing to seek them out and take them. You know, they were there for us and we just sort of had to hustle and grab them. And, you know, I think that's the beauty of the city of Atlanta, to sort of seg us into where we're going to start today, is that while Georgia as a state, I think as a whole, has a lot of demons to deal with, you know, I think we'd all agree on that. The city of Atlanta is sort of where I became, you know, a young adult, and where I became, you know, confident in my own identity, because it was a city that celebrated creativity, just period. You know, it wasn't looking at my background. It wasn't looking at my skin tone or my face or anything like that. It was just, what were you creating? You know, and is there something that the community, the city of Atlanta, can celebrate? And so for Dan and I, that's a unique part about our upbringing that kind of brings us together. And then now years later, we've stayed friends. So that's my spiel. Dan, I want to kick it over to you. We're going to talk a lot about your story today. I'm gonna question you on a few things, but other than that, I'll turn it over to you, man.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you. I appreciate you saying that, and that intro is beautiful. You know, Alex is my homie. Talk about unexpected connections. It doesn't really get more unexpected than that. And actually, you know, Alex invited me out to Asia a couple years ago. We went to Seoul, you know what I'm saying? We went to Hong Kong, took me out there. So that was a big, a moment I'll never forget, you know what I'm saying? So our relationship has grown deeply. You know, as I think about my story and, you know, obviously where it starts, and I know we have limited time. I know we're on the last segment. You know, they saved the best for last.
Baby.
Yeah, you already know. So I hope y'all got y'all popcorn. But it's story time with Decatur Dan and Alex Maeland. But yeah, I think you know, it definitely starts at streetwear and Standard and Wish. But even before that, for me, you know, it starts in Decatur. It starts in South DeKalb. It starts in East Atlanta, East Side, Stone Mountain, stand up. And, you know, I feel like I definitely have, and I'm sure you guys have been touching on this throughout the day, but I definitely have like a moral obligation and responsibility just to like kind of touch on what's been going on in the world right now. You know, Georgia has its demons, America has its demons. And, you know, this what's been going on in terms of as it pertains to George Floyd and police brutality and the Black community is, you know, something that's very sensitive to me. It's very close to my heart. I grew up in South DeKalb. It's predominantly Black. And, you know, Black people have always just embraced me and my family. And so the protests, everything that's going on right now it means a lot to see. You know, it's not pretty, but it's definitely, you know, I think I'm optimistic about the change that can come. You know, it's no surprise that this is an election year, and I think that, you know, we have a chance to get out here and rock the vote, so to speak. And so I just want to acknowledge what's kind of going on in the world, and I'm so excited to be a part of this. And you guys, I know this. We've been talking about this for a while. You guys, you know, started as a COVID-19 relief, and then you know pivoted to include and support the Black Lives Matter movement, which is so important. And so I'm just happy to be a part of that. But yeah, I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for, you know, the Black community. And as I think about my my journey and my life, you know, it's been the key characters, the key cornerstones or milestones have been opportunities that have been given to me from Black or brown people. You know, starting with Farshad at Standard, who was an Iranian dude, and hired me as a retail associate. I worked there while going to Georgia State. And Standard was cool. Like Standard was, I didn't really, you know what I wanted to do with my life at that time. I was just, you know, graduated high school. I was playing basketball before that. That was my dream, was to be in the NBA, even though that was not gonna happen. But you know, like that was what I was shooting for. That was what I grew up doing. That's what kept me out of trouble.
Right.
And so,
well, I think, Dan, I think for people who don't know you, you know, before, let's even say before music videos, because there's a, you know, obviously there's period, you still do, but you did a lot of music videos for a lot of hip hop artists. Maybe start me in that Standard era for you, the retail era for you, because I think that's super integral to how you started this creative journey. Give us a bit of context for Standard pre-music video, Dan, let's call it.
For sure. So I'm at Standard. It was a retail job that I had I was working and going to school. You know, I had the Hope Scholarship, and I didn't take out any student loans. So I was just working to kind of make a living. I was still living at home with my parents, trying to figure out, you know, what I wanted to do. And you know, Standard was the only thing I really had. It was great, you know what I mean? And it was a safe haven. I was into streetwear, I was into the fashion, I was into everything it stood for, and it was so inclusive, and it was so it was just dope. It was so niche, and it was like exclusive, and you know, everything. It was kind of like the yeah, it was just a good environment to be in, and we had, you know, everybody. Obviously, we sold the exclusive clothes and the gear, so we had everybody that shot from us, from you know, the Usher Raymonds and the Elton Johns of the world, but more importantly, kind of like the Coach K's, the Don Cannons, the Jason Jeters, the kind of the people that these are music industry people who are behind the scenes, who are the movers and shakers and kind of the gatekeepers and the decision makers, and so.
Right.
Those people were shopping there, and they kind of knew me. That was my clientele, you know what I mean? So they kind of came to me, and they respected my opinion. They're like, yo, what's cool? What's this? What's that? Like, and so I got to know them, you know what I'm saying, through that whole process. And during that time, I had also started like the Standard blog. I was taking pictures. I was making posts. It was, you know, I was talking about, it was really about the community. I think the community of streetwear and the community of the, you know, the store environment was what I loved the most about Standard. That was really the biggest thing. And so.
And Cannon specifically, the producer was super important in terms of the people that were kind of like flowing through the shop. You know, like you said, you built that kind of creative trust with people because you were basically styling them. You were telling them what was dope, what was whack. Mm-hmm. Talk to me a bit about that Cannon relationship, because I know that's important for you.
Yeah, for sure. And so Cannon was one of the first people. DJ Don Cannon, producer Don Cannon, steps back. He had that famous drop. You know, producers have all their drops. And so Cannon was a frequent shopper from the store, come in, buy up all the BBC Billionaire Boys Club tees. And he was like, he kind of took notice of what I was doing with the store and the blog and everything. And he was like, you know, could you do what you're doing for the store, but could you do it for me? And I was like, I guess, yeah, sure. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I didn't know, you know, what he was even asking of me, but I jumped on board. You know what I mean? I was like, yeah. So, so that kicked off, you know, the next kind of phase where I was juggling school, I was work, and going to the studio at night, and just kind of like working with him, putting together, you know, rolling out mixtapes that he was a part of, hosting, you know, producing imagery and artwork for his singles and things like that, distributing those to the blogs. I just kind of like just jumped
So like
right
you
in.
were basically you were in the studio with Canon, just creating content.
Yes, exactly, creating content and distributing that content too. And so that's kind of like if you go back and search on Two Dope Boys or Nah Right or Rap Radar, you know, you'll see like even before I was doing music videos or anything like that, you'll see my credit of source Decatur Dan or whatever. So I was just really kind of like I was distributing stuff for him. And so, and one of the things that came up during that time was like Canon was trying to figure everything out, and he was like, "Yeah, man, I need you to roll this out and make this mixtape artwork from this designer and do this." He's like, "And I got to do this video work, but like it's just gonna take me some time to edit the videos. I got the footage." And I was like, "Well, you know, I know how to edit." And he was like, "For real? You know how to edit?" Like he got up out of his seat, and I was like, "Yeah, like my dad is a camera operator and he's a video editor. Like I grew up around this stuff, like I know how to do it." And he was like, "Oh, bet." So he all of a sudden just kind of like put that responsibility on me, and now at this point, there was another unexpected connection, so to speak, where it was like I could take this backstory of my dad, who had, that's really my foundation around video production. He kind of like taught me, or my dad was a video editor and camera operator. So he kind of showed me the ropes, but I never really saw my career in it because I didn't know that I wanted to necessarily follow in my dad's footsteps. I love my dad, but I just kind of wanted to find my own way. And this was, but the way found me. And so, now
how did you go? Oh, so I didn't mean to cut you up, but so you were like basically taking like product shots, like at, on like white pieces of paper at the shop on the sales floor, like during business hours.
Mm-hmm.
And then you find yourself in the studio with, still to this day, but definitely at the time, like one of the best, like if you wanted to like do something in Atlanta, like you kind of had to work with like Canon, if you really wanted to have a platform. How did that go from shooting product shots to like all of a sudden being like market and shoot content in the hip hop world? And then talk to me about how that led then into sort of ultimately doing music videos.
Right. Well, it was a slow grind. I mean, that thing happened over probably a course of a year or a year and a half, 2 years. And, I was comfortable around the camera. Like I was comfortable, given my background. And so, but there basically was just a point where we were doing all these little projects for these artists, whether it be, they were big artists, but at the same time, they weren't huge artists. I mean, you're talking about the Cool Kids, you're talking about Currency, Young Dro, but I kind of like had my eyes set on some bigger, some bigger talent. And Canon was working with Jeezy at the time, and Canon was like, and I was like, man, if you can get us in the studio with Jeezy and I can get in there with the camera, like we're gonna be cooking with hot grease.
What year is this? What album is Young Jeezy on at this point?
Jeezy's on. He's about to release Trap or Die. Oh no, I'm sorry. Yeah, Trap or Die 2, the mixtape, and TM103, which he had delayed. But Jeezy was kind of at the height of his career. He was on tour with Jay-Z. He had a huge song on Blueprint 3. So Jeezy was having a run. He was kind of like separating himself from like, the quintessential kind of Atlanta rappers, and he was like transcending to the next level. And so that's why I also knew it was so important. And lo and behold, a couple months later, Jeezy asked Canon to host one of his mixtapes, Trap or Die 2, which was going to be a big thing. Jeezy was made off of the mixtape, game. Like he came out, like he put a mixtape out, it blew up, and then that's what sparked his album career and his professional career. So when Jeezy dropped a mixtape, it wasn't just like a mixtape. It was a big deal. And so he wanted Canon to host it. Therefore, that means I was going to handle a lot of the promotional material. Which was exciting, but also like, well, what do you do? So the first, I never forget, like it was like a Thursday night, it's like I get a call from Canon at like 11 p.m. And he's like, "Yo, come up to the studio. Jeezy's about to be up here in an hour. Like, we gotta make a promo video. We gotta drop it and
Give
put it
you a
on
huge
World Star."
heads up.
No heads up, man. It's like, and you know, I was at that point. I mean, like we at what 10:30 LA time. This is about my bedtime right now, but back then I was definitely staying up later. But I still didn't want to be in a situation where I was unprepared, and so I almost didn't even do it. But I was just like, it was around the corner. I was like, man, let me just go up here. And like, you know, honestly too, even just to be in, you know, Jeezy was one of my favorite artists at the time. So, you know, just to be in like that studio session was to me, it was cool. So I go up there, no idea what we're gonna do, but I didn't really have to know what we were gonna be doing because Jeezy hopped out the car, comes in, daps everybody up, and he's like, I know exactly what we're gonna do. He's like, I'm gonna hop out the car, my chauffeur gonna light my blunt, I'm gonna come in the studio, I'm gonna spit the bars, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right, cool. Like I just had the camera and I'm just
There's
like,
the treatment.
that's the treatment. You know what I'm saying? Like treatment is instant. And then I went there and shot it. And I just like instincts, you know, like pulling from my instincts and just like feeling it out.
Which is also like low key, you, in a way you were kind of trained for that because streetwear and retail at the time, like you just had to fucking get your camera and make it work. So you were kind of ready for that moment, right?
For sure, for sure. And I have been doing a couple of the promo videos for a while now. So I was just like, I don't know what it's going to be, but you know, it's like, and this is a big point because you know, later on in my career, I wanted to differentiate myself from like, just like being a documentary kind of like approach to everything where it's like, okay, you just show up and you just make something happen and you just figure it out in post and then you just make it. It's like, no, I wanted to go in and I wanted to have intentional ideas that I executed masterfully. So, you know, but back to the story, I shoot the video that night. It was just, you know, it was like it was a surreal moment. I go home, even though I was tired, I probably cut that whole video that night. And it was definitely, I was just excited, you know what I mean? Like I stayed up late and then the next day or the following day, I ended up going to work and me and the owner of the store, we actually had a bit of an argument over some stuff. And, you know, there were some things that were said and it's all good now, but I felt like at the time it was my time to go and I had to kind of like quit, you know, my old life. And that was hard because, you know, Standard and Farshad, you know, they still have a very special place in my heart. I would not be where I am today if it was not for them, or for him and his store and the community that I got from his store and working there. And I hope they're doing okay right now. I know COVID and everything is affecting everybody crazy, but yeah, I just kind of felt like that was something that I had to do. So I quit that night. I remember being very emotional. And I remember talking to my homie, my best friend, kind of coming over. And we sat in the parking lot of my apartment complex on Marietta Street. And we just talked about everything. He was like, well, what are you going to do now? You know, this is a Friday night. It's like I quit on a Friday night. And I was like, man, I think I'm going to take this video stuff seriously. And he was like, nah, you can't do that. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, you can't make a living like that, you know, but this was back in the time where, you know, we were taught, even though that's not what I saw, you know, my dad was a freelance cameraman and in video production. And, you know, I've even seen my uncle, like, he's an entrepreneur. Even though it's not what I saw around me, that's just kind of what we were taught was like, go to school, get a degree and find a job, you know? And so
is this at the point where so now you're like basically leaving Atlanta? Like, I don't want to skip over too much, but I want to make sure we have some time because there's some really good questions that are getting submitted.
For sure. And we can stop. We can also stop. We don't have to go through the full story, but I definitely want to stay, you know.
Well, the one thing I want to make sure you hit on real quick is like, you know, there's the background, right? So there's this transition from I'm shooting shoes in a store to I'm doing music videos for like the best hip hop artists in Atlanta. then and even now, you know, like you transitioned from doing this behind the scenes stuff in the studio with a Jeezy to you're doing full on music video treatments and directing videos for, you know, Future and all these other guys. But then there's this crazy like pivot where you literally move out of Atlanta, and long story short, you find yourself in the app world essentially, and it's kind of the start of where you're at today, which is doing app design for the Nikes of the world, living in the Bay for a bit, moving to LA, starting a commercial studio.
For sure.
I kind of want to get you just to briefly hit on like, how do you do that? How do you go from I'm a hip hop music video in Atlanta to I'm on the West Coast doing commercial work?
It's all about a conscious decision to you know, focus on my craft and be the best at, you know, like I was a lost kid, you know, growing up. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but when I had an opportunity put in front of me that, you know, registered with me internally, and I recognized that, I honored that, and I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna dedicate my life to you know, to being the best that I can be at this, and that's what I did. You know, after Jeezy with the music videos, I was like, I'm gonna dive in, not just what it means to be, you know, a filmmaker, you know, but a creative first, and like having ideas. How do I generate ideas on demand? How do I, you know, do all this stuff? And so I set goals, I accomplished them, and over, you know, probably 3 years of time, 3-4 years of time, I was top of my class, you know, as it pertained to music video directors in Atlanta, but known national recognition, you know, and like the people who I looked up to were giving me recognition, you know, from.
But by all standards, like by all standards, well, pun intended, you didn't really have any of the qualifications to really be doing what you were doing, right?
No, for sure. And that happened, and that's happened time and time again in my life. And you know.
But what do you think it is that gave you that? Like, how did you get to where you are today with basically no on paper qualifications to do what you are doing now?
Flowing through life and
vibing
and honestly, I mean, working very hard, having opportunities presented to me and taking them seriously. And even if I didn't know something, just because I haven't done something before, doesn't mean that I can't do it better than the person who's doing it now. You know what I'm saying? Who you're hiring. And there was a lot of opportunities that maybe I didn't deserve. You know what I mean? Like whether that was with Canon, whether that was with Jeezy, whether that was with the sneaker app. You know what I mean? So basically, this how I transitioned from music video to LA and the and product photography on a major level to work with Nike and stuff was my homie Vic Singh, who I know from working at Nike Town Atlanta, Phipps Plaza. You know, like he basically he saw what I was doing. He was paying attention, and he knew my kind of hustler mentality, my that spirit, and that's exactly what he was looking for when he started. He was a co-founder of the sneaker app, and he kind of reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I need a nimble team to go out to San Francisco, because obviously San Francisco is a tech capital." And he was like, "Go out there, and I need you to be the digital producer for this app." You know, we had an amazing, you know, digital designer. We had a developer, and we built a prototype for the sneaker app that he was then able to take and sell through to the whole Nike executives and leadership. And that 1 month kind of was how it was briefed, which I almost didn't even do. Again, there's always been these times where it's like, I'm always at this debate, but I go out there and it really definitely opens up my mind. You know what I mean? Like it was I needed a break from Atlanta. I needed a break from the music video thing. It was good money, and it was a good change of pace. And so I go out to San Fran and kind of do that thing, and then eventually just say, you know what, I'm gonna try my shot in Los Angeles. And so after San Fran, instead of going back to Atlanta, I decide that I'm gonna try my hand in LA. There was also too, like that's what led to, it's like because I had my hand in the digital production of the sneaker app, I got kind of first dibs on like the opportunity to kind of sandbox some of the photography that was
Right.
going to be in the app. And so that's kind of how I got my whole start. And it's like, all right, cool. Ship shoes down to Dan. He can do test shoots, this, and that. And that was my realm because I had done that at Standard. So like, that's kind of like how everything all adds up, or these unexpected connections. And even though
So it was
like,
almost like full circle at that point, where like it all came back around, where you're pairing these things together and then kind of putting them into this new recipe for
sure. And it was definitely like it was challenging because I had done photography before but I had never done it at the Nike level. Like Nike, that's the thing I love about Nike, is they kind of demand the best out of you, you know. And so and so yeah, so I had to kind of start over. And at first it was like I didn't even think too much about it, but I did have to kind of start over. And so
For sure. Well,
yeah.
and actually this is the perfect seg, because there's a couple of good questions that I'm looking at here for you that I think are a great transition from this whole journey for you. So what I want to do is let's go ahead and move to the Q&A section. They're going to roll a plate real quick, and then I'll ask you a couple things.
Go for it.
And we're back.
We got the plate. I love the plate. You know, it's a great plate.
So this is a question that I really wanted to hit on today. This is coming from let me see here. This is coming from Gavin in Atlanta. What lessons did you learn from your roots in rap music video production that you still carry through with you today? So what lessons did you learn from your roots in rap music video production that you still carry through to today?
Trust your instincts. You know, I've done big shoots. I've done the biggest of the big and the smallest of the small, and everything all boils down to just trusting my instincts and being scrappy. You know, I've done more with the camera in me and just myself than I've done with like when I've got, you know, 3-ton grip trucks outside and 60 people crews and, you know, this and that. And it's like, that can be hard to navigate, and that can be hard to stay true to yourself, but because you got all these people coming at you. But, you know, at the end of the day, you have to quiet those voices and listen to yourself, because people are coming to you because you have a point of view and you have to execute that point of view. And so whether it's from the music video world now, it's like, no, trust yourself and listen to yourself and quiet those voices, because that is ultimately like what people are coming to you for. Like anybody can take a pretty picture or make a video with some lights and some video effects and some this and some that. It's like, what's your point of view, and how can you get that across effectively through visual communication? For sure.
I love that. Okay, switching gears, actually, this is another, I think, super relevant question right now. It says, hey, from Erica in Washington, D.C. It says, hey, Dan, as a white man working in hip hop, how are you showing up for the Black community during times like these? That's from Erica in Washington.
Erica in Washington. I appreciate that question. And I love that she's in Washington right now. Because that's definitely, you know, the epicenter of all this stuff. I mean, it's not the epicenter, but it's definitely a key city. The biggest thing I'm doing is not being silent. So in the past, I haven't always been outspoken or vocal as it pertains to political or social events, just because, that's just not, I tend to kind of like stay out of that stuff, or be, I'm an undershare in general, like on social. I'm kind of private, like, I'm not like super vocal, but now I recognize my responsibility as a white man, in a system in America where, you know, I definitely have to use my voice and my platform and speak up, because this is not, it's not a Black people problem that's going on right now. This is a white people problem. And so I'm just speaking up. I'm starting with my circle. I'm starting with my family. I'm speaking out against, you know, racism. I don't think it's not enough to be not racist anymore. Like, we have to be anti-racist, and we have to educate people who, you know, obviously me, I have an advantage in the sense where I grew up in a predominantly Black community. So I'm familiar with everything that's going on. But everyone doesn't have that opportunity or that experience. So it's like, all right, cool. If you don't know, let me help you know. And still coming from a place of love, even though it's definitely outraging at times, you know, but yeah, so the biggest thing really is not being silent, but there's many things: voting, supporting Black businesses, you know, checking in really with just like I have a lot of Black friends, so I can't check in with all of them, but the ones that have been put on my heart to check in with, just like, and, you know, not even to like talk about anything, but just like to be a genuine good person. And so it feels like I'm saying a lot, but at times I feel like I'm still not doing enough. But I have bigger plans for, you know, what I can do long term and bigger picture to really maybe to make some change or to have, you know, to create some change.
Yeah, I think that's great. For the next question, real quick, I think you and I, like, in terms of even just, you know, very practical things like age range, we're at that sort of edge right now where, like, how old are you? Are you 34?
33.
You're 33. My bad.
Yeah.
I'm 32.
Year.
Yeah.
Coming
So
up,
you
we
and I
come
are
up in what, July 10th.
Yeah.
34. I'm getting there.
So you and I are both kind of at that age where, you know, there's a very distinct sort of next generation, let's call it, up and coming in a creative field right now. So to this this next question here, I think this is interesting. This is from Nicole. It says, how do you connect something that's nostalgic to you and your generation and translate it to a younger generation who might not understand what nostalgia even is? And if I would even maybe expound on that, I would almost even say like what are you sort of doing from your sort of era of like hustling, grinding, learning your creativity, exploring your curiosity, and then how are you parlaying that into, you know, an avenue or a channel perhaps that a younger generation can thrive
For sure.
off of?
Is this Nicole Font? I hope it's Nicole. I hope it's that food Cray.
It's not Nicole Fung.
Oh, shouts out to that food Cray though. The movement. But no, that's a great question. I think, you know, Bong Joon-ho said it at the Oscars when he won Best Picture. Shouts out to Parasite and everything. Is most personal is most creative, you know. And so I'm a very nostalgic by nature, very nostalgic human being. I cherish, you know, everything that I've experienced in life. And so I think it just kind of comes out pretty naturally in the sense where, you know, you don't really have, like, your creativity is based on your experience in life. And that's kind of what I learned when I started to study the object or the aspect of being creative. What does it mean to be creative? What it means to be creative is have more experiences. The more experiences you have, the more things you can pull from. So that's why you find a lot of creative people who travel a lot or who engage a lot or who study a lot or who, you know, it's more than just like going on Pinterest or Tumblr and pulling a bunch of like, or like filling your brain with a bunch of like visual things that you can like reference later or reference in a deck, or it's like, that is maybe the least creative thing you do. It's just, that's copycatting. You know, the biggest thing you can do is go out and have real experiences, and from whatever they may be, it doesn't even have to be art related. You know what I mean? Like, just go out and have as many experiences as possible and fill your brain with as many things as possible, And then basically what you're doing is you're filling up your tank, you're filling up your bank. So when that phone call comes and somebody wants you to do that photo shoot, or they want you to do that video treatment or whatever, like you can be like, oh, I have this idea from this time where I did this, you know? So I feel like that is the biggest key to creativity that they don't teach in school necessarily. They teach you how to be filmmakers. They teach you how to be photographers. They teach you how to be designers, but they don't teach you how to be creative. And to be creative is just to pull from your personal life experiences. Most personal is most creative. And actually, I don't even know if Bong Joon-ho, I think Scorsese might have actually coined that phrase. But yeah, so that's that.
Last quick one here from Jasmine. What have been some of the most challenging subjects that you've covered, or challenging subjects that you've shot, or a variation of that question?
For sure, challenging. I mean, it's all challenging. You know what I mean? Like this, like production, and it's hard. Like it's like this shit is not easy. Like it's Anthony Mandler. This, you know, he used to describe it as, you know, music videos where it's war. You know, like it's like you're going to war. You have a vision that you are trying to accomplish, and that is set against fixed resources, meaning time, money, and, you know, budget. And so you are trying to, you know, you're trying to accomplish a vision within physical time constraints or physical constraints in general. That is never easy. So every project that I go into is challenging as it pertains to if she's talking about, you know, all my stuff is commercial. And I'm a commercial photographer, commercial director. So it's always pretty, you know, I'm not doing like I'm not out personally right now documenting like some of the crazy stuff that's going on. And I have done some documentary type work that has been challenging to accomplish, whether that be, you know, music videos in some of the hoods of America. But even those weren't challenging because I was welcome there. Like the people embraced me there, you know. So it was all love. Like I was in the maybe the most dangerous environments, whether that's Ridgecrest Apartments in Mississippi or, you know, Edgewood or Mactown. But like I was there and I was with the people. So it's all challenging because it's challenging because I'm trying to tell a story. And anytime you're trying to tell a story, that takes a lot of consideration, a lot of thought, and a lot of effort.
That's great. Right. Well, Dan, we're out of time. I know we could go all day on this, but I appreciate you carving out your evening in LA.
I'm going to bed now.
Yeah. We appreciate you, man. Thank you for logging in and sharing. And I will talk to you soon.
Yes, you will. Thank you guys for having me.
All right, Dan. Take care, man.
Have a good one.
See ya.
Sign me off this month.